G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome to my review of Duelist, the tactical card game. What would you get if you crossed Heroes of Might and Magic with Hearthstone and Battlechess? Well, you'd get Duelist. Over the past couple months, I've picked up Magic the Gathering, and it has left me with a hunger for different types of card game experiences, and I've tried a few now, and this is one that has really grabbed me, first and initially for its beautiful aesthetic style. I mean, just look at the art on the menu screen here is absolutely gorgeous, and you guys haven't seen the in-game pixel art yet, which I'll show off in a moment. But it grabbed me for its aesthetic style, but it's really kept me in the game over the past week because of its tactical depth in its board game style positioning of creatures and generals, and the way that you play around your opponent and the way that you try and maintain board control is really attractive to me. And on top of that, it seems to have a very fair monetization model as well. So these things have combined together to make me very quickly fall in love with Duelist. We're going to kick things off with a look at the gameplay, and then I'll take a look at some of the metagame elements and share my review of those different elements for you guys. Here is that beautiful pixel art I mentioned. As you can see, each of the creatures and spells in this game are represented by animated pixel art, and you can see when you mouse over them, they animate in different ways, and they each have their own attack animations and things like that. And it gives it, that's what I said, like that Battlechess kind of feel as you move your creatures around the board and have them attack each other. So, each player has a general on the battlefield. I'm playing the Lionar faction over here, and you start off with 5 cards, and you get a chance to replace 2 of these cards at the beginning of the match. So we'll go ahead and replace one of the higher cost cards that we won't be able to play early in the game, and one of the other cards that we have duplicates of. So I'm granted 2 new cards. I got almost the same cards back, and we are just playing against an AI here to show off the game. So as you can see, one of the big differences for this game, or one of the things that makes it unique, is this board game style. As you can see, each one of these tiles can have a creature or your general, and you're able to move and attack with your creatures and generals each turn. So, as the initiating player here, I'm going to move forwards, and I'm going to place a creature down. We have a Sunstone Templar here. Whenever this attacks or counterattacks, it dispels the enemy. So this is a good way to potentially counter some buffed up or ability-heavy opponents. Otherwise, I might just play this guy here, who has an ability that gives him more damage when he's near my general. And that's kind of important, because a lot of the features in this game are very heavily based on positioning. And positioning and board control is something you always need to keep in your mind, because it's well and good to play like good value creatures against their good value creatures, but how you position them and how you move around is absolutely essential to winning in this game. Now, something that this game Duelist tries to profess, or tries to throw forwards, is that it is not very RNG heavy. I mean, as far as you can take a card game, it has very few RNG elements. And to help you execute your strategies efficiently, you can actually replace a card each and every turn in addition to the card you draw. This allows you to mitigate the RNG of card draw somewhat and better execute your strategies. And in a typical match, you'll have your strategies based on your actual deck. You'll have your deck strategy play out more often. So that gives the game kind of a really satisfying feel. You get to execute your combos in a much nicer fashion. So as you can see, my opponents moved forwards, didn't have any cards they wanted to play this turn. Now you'll notice these 3 mana spring tiles just around here, and these give an extra mana on the turn that you stand a creature on them. So this essentially means that player 2 starts off closer to a mana spring to counteract the fact that they're going second, right? They don't have the initiative. So we get to kind of play around this as well. So I can move forwards and take their mana spring since she didn't play any creature on it. Potentially she could have played a 2-drop creature, starting with 3 mana. She could have played another 2-drop. So there's a few things she could do there. Now again, the idea of replacing these cards. I actually have this guy here who actually benefits from being replaced by becoming cheaper and gaining 1/1 each time. So I'm going to replace him, and he'll be more powerful when I draw him out in the later game. So that's a pretty powerful legendary card just there. So I can move up here and take this mana spring, move forwards and drop a creature on that mana spring. I think that is what we will do here. So this gives us 4 mana this turn, and I can actually drop another one here, and that'll give me 5 mana, so I can drop down my Zeal guy here, and let's say we can drop down, we'll drop down two 2-drops here, and we'll try and gain a very nice, I did my math wrong, classic Ziggy math. Well, at the very least, we have denied a mana spring from our opponent being able to get it, so I don't think we'll be replacing anything this turn. I'm pretty happy with my hand at the moment. So turn by turn, you place creatures, you play spells, you play artifacts, which are essentially equipment for your general, and you try and your objective being to kill the enemy general. Pretty simple stuff. The same as in many card games, the objective being to kill the other player. The difference here is that the general is actually like a creature on the board that gets to move around, engage in combat, and the positioning of your general, you can be very aggressive, you can be up killing creatures like she just did just there, or you can be hanging back and playing a little more defensively to try and prevent your opponent from dealing face damage to you. Now, the opponent just played an artifact, Snowpiercer, which gives them +3 attack. You'll notice this has 2 durability bars just here. All artifacts start with 3 durability and lose a durability whenever the general takes damage with this artifact equipped. So we can intentionally get rid of this artifact by attacking the general or dealing damage to them in some fashion. So I'm going to move down here and I'm going to play this creature just here, Jaxi, which when Jaxi dies has a Dying Wish, which is a death trigger that will summon a 1/1 ranged creature in one of the random corners of the battlefield. So there's a couple of cards that have a minor element of RNG to it, and it's actually very few. There's only a few cards that have some element like that, which add just a little bit of extra spice to the game here and there. So our objective is probably going to be to deal some face damage to the enemy general, I think here. I could take 5 damage to my general, and I think that is what I'll do. So that way we can keep this one alive. I don't think I'll even attack with this. Being only 1 damage, it's probably not going to really offer us much. Then again, we do have another Dispel. We get to replace 2 cards thanks to the ability you can see on the left-hand side of this creature. So I could replace a few more cards here if I want to. Again, I'm pretty satisfied with my current hand though. I think I'm just going to play this 2-drop, and my general has an ability here that allows me to increase the damage of another creature. So each general, there are 2 generals per faction, and there are multiple factions, and each general has their own special ability. So my one gives a nearby minion, so this is a minion or a creature within this square around my general, +2 damage, so that can be quite powerful at buffing up creatures and allowing them to deal more face damage. The enemy general here has this ability that deals 2 damage to all creatures in a column with your general, so that really punishes poor positioning, and that's kind of what I just had there. I took the Mana Spring, but as a result, he was able to deal 2 damage to my general and to me, and then it summoned Jaxi in the top corner, but we can actually look at this battle log here to see what he did. And he played a Flash Freeze, deals 1 damage to a minion and stun it. Since it only had 1 health, that actually killed it. So we can keep an eye on the cards being played in this battle log over here, in case you miss anything. So I think I'm going to drop down. Most creatures can only be summoned in a square around another creature or your general. So as you can see, if I go to place this down, it can only be placed in one of these squares around my general. So you can play around that fact with by placing creatures to block down placement in key places. However, there are some creatures that have either flying, which allows you to place them down, then they can move to anywhere. Most creatures can only move 2 spaces per turn, but flying creatures can move anywhere. And then there are creatures with abilities like Airdrop, which can be placed anywhere on the battlefield, so this creature is quite powerful. And it also allows me to show off the Provoke mechanic as well, which is essentially a taunting mechanic. Now the way Taunt or Provoke works in this game is that any creature in this space around this creature is forced to attack this creature and not any others. And it also cannot move away as well, which is very important because it allows you to lock down a general in place. So this general is getting pretty low in health now, so I'm going to try and deal some face damage to them, and locking them down with this Provoke here allows them to have no chance of moving away. Now because it's a 10 health Provoke, they're going to have to kill it with some form of removal spell, because otherwise they're going to be in a lot of trouble and take some damage in the coming up turns here. She chose to transform it into a 3/3 creature instead, so it lost all of its abilities. So that was a reasonable play. I don't know about playing the Airdrop up here in the corner, as I kind of feel a questionable play, but the AI is not incredibly intelligent. The game, like most multiplayer competitive games, shine when you are able to actually play against other players who have human intelligence. But the AI does a sufficient job of allowing you to learn the basic mechanics of the game through the practice mode that we're in just here. So I'm going to be able to deal a bit of damage here. I don't have lethal or anything. I'm going to get rid of this creature, see if I can get something. We can destroy a minion and grant health to its owner. I don't really want to do that to this creature. It's no threat at the moment, and it would heal my opponent. At the most, I'm going to be able to do is 7 damage here, but that's okay. We can play down. I think I'll play down this creature here, and we're going to be pretty safe to be able to get lethal next turn. Now, what we've done here is I could have actually placed this creature up here to lock the general in from escaping, but at most she's going to be able to move 2 spaces away, which would I would still be able to move 2 spaces to be able to catch up and attack her. So that wouldn't be a problem. You can move and attack each turn. So no problem there. She's going to be able to remove some of my creatures here, but she's not going to have enough. Even my general, at the very least, is going to be able to kill the enemy general here. So we're going to be able to seal out this game nice and quickly. Just a very quick game to show you the basic mechanics and gameplay. But obviously there's a lot more strategic depth when you're playing against a real opponent, and when you have longer matches that kind of, you get to throw all of your different combos and strategies at your opponent. So we can move up here and finish off the enemy general there. Now, as you win games, each faction levels up. So through practice mode, you can only reach a maximum level 10, but that's enough to unlock the majority of the basic cards for that faction. These are free cards you can use to build up decks and play with in the ladder to get you started. And quite a few of the basic and common cards that you get in this game are actually quite good. So that's a good kickstart. And the practice mode here, when you first start the game, you'll go through, you'll face off against each other faction, and by doing so you'll unlock that faction for play. So you kind of do this system where you start with Liner, you face Songhai, and then you unlock Songhai. You can use Songhai to face Vitruvian, and so on and so forth as you move through each of the factions. So 6 factions, and each faction at the moment has 2 generals, and this has the potential of being expanded in the future as well. Each faction has a starter deck, which I said are okay, and they're a good place to get started with the game. You could start laddering with them. I was able to get up pretty close into getting into silver with just the starter deck. So with good play, they can be played quite effectively. So as far as game modes are concerned, in addition to the practice mode, you have the actual ladder, which is, opponent player versus player, and you move up through the ladder system. Each victory gives you a point. Win streaks will allow you to move through the ranks faster, and at the end of the season, each month, you get a set of rewards based on your ending rank at the end of the month. And these rewards are actually quite attractive as well, and there are like unique cards and things like that given out as well, which is some attractive incentives to ladder and try and improve your ladder standing. Now, there is also the Gauntlet, which you Hearthstone players will be very familiar with this mode. It's very similar to the Arena mode. It's essentially a drafting system where you get to pick one of 3 randomized faction generals, and then you can draw from one of 3 cards each way through until you build a deck of 30 cards. Then you take that deck of 30 cards and play in a series of matches until you lose 3 times. Now, this Gauntlet mode is only available some of the time. I'm not sure exactly why that is just yet, but at the moment, the way I'm playing it is I'm building up gold to enter the Gauntlet, which is 150 gold, and then when it's offline, and then when it's online, I Gauntlet as much as possible, because it is a lot of fun, and it is also very rewarding as well. If you get 3 wins, you essentially break even, so you get a card pack, guaranteed, no matter what, no matter how many times you win, even if you lose all of them and don't win any games, you get a card pack back. So you at least spend 150 gold, get a card pack, which usually cost 100 gold. Now, in the Gauntlet mode, if you get 3 wins, you essentially break even. You get your pack, you get like 30 to 40 gold, and then like 30 to 40 of the crafting material in the game, which allows you to craft cards. And then you also get some random cards. So I've gotten rare cards and things like that from that as well. So just 3 wins alone, which is quite easy to achieve, will cause you to break even and makes the Gauntlet quite rewarding. Now, if you get to 7 wins, you actually get a Gauntlet ticket to be able to enter the Gauntlet again for free. So you can essentially chain them that way, in addition to a whole bunch of other nice rewards too. Now, this is actually a really cool mode here, Solo Challenges. These are really, really good for learning the game's mechanics, and I've played through a whole bunch of these now, and these are essentially mini one-turn puzzles. We'll take a look at one of these ones that I haven't done yet. I'm horrible at puzzles, so this could be an utter embarrassment, but nonetheless, we'll take a look at this. Now, each one of these awards 5 to 10 gold too, so doing all of these will give you enough gold for a couple Gauntlet runs, or a couple packs of cards to get you started as well. So they are pretty rewarding, and they don't take long to do at all. Now, these are essentially one-turn puzzles. Basically, get lethal on the enemy general that turn using a certain mechanic unique to that faction or unique to a certain card type or something like that. So these modes do a really good job of teaching you, and how good's the music, by the way? These modes do a really good job of teaching you certain card mechanics and how to best play them. So in this case, we have the enemy general with 13 health. We have destroy all minions with 3 attack or less. We have destroy a random enemy artifact, which is your general game's +2 attack. Okay, that could be relevant here. Destroy any minion with the lowest attack or tied for the lowest attack. So, I'm thinking what we need to do here is, we'll play this out and see how it goes. We can restart if we make a mistake, so it's pretty easy to just test things. Destroy all minions with 3 attack or less, that will destroy all her minions. That works out pretty well for us, fairly simple. This might be a pretty simple one. Some of the puzzles are really easy. Some of them will require, you know, maybe like 5-10 minutes of actual trial and error or thinking out. There was one particular puzzle that was really quite challenging. So now we can destroy any minion with the lowest attack or tied for the lowest attack. This seems like a puzzle kind of focusing on removal spells and things like that, and using those in the correct order, for example. Like, we wouldn't have been able to use that card on that creature until we killed the rest of the lower attack creatures. So now we have destroy a random enemy artifact. I mean, we can probably just play this anyway. I don't think this matters too much. The creature doesn't have rush, so it can't act this turn. It has summoning sickness. Now we can move up, and we should just be able to deal lethal damage here. So this is an example of a pretty simple puzzle, more just kind of showcasing the mechanics of removal cards. And a pretty easy way to earn 5 gold, which is the same amount of gold you get for a regular ladder win. There's a whole bunch of these as well. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of 5 challenges as well. I'd like to see the developers expand on these. I understand that they actually worked with the community to create some of the puzzles as well, which is really cool. So I've talked about how rewarding the Gauntlet Mode and things like that are, and I think that's a good segue now into talking about the actual monetization of the game. So, if we go into the armory here, you can buy packs for 100 gold, and you can earn 100 gold a day easily in like half an hour to 1 hour max of play. Now that is because you get daily quests. So if we go into the daily quests here, you get daily quests totaling usually about 50 gold, sometimes more. So as you can see, I've got you get 2 quests each day, and they usually total about 50 gold, right? And occasionally you get an extra one, like this welcome back quest here. So that's 50, 70 gold just from daily quests a day, which is very easy to do. So this is a bit of a longer set of quests, but you can actually replace these quests. Like for example, I don't really feel like playing Songhai, so I can replace this quest with another random one. Destroy at least 5 minions in one game. Easy. 5 less gold, but very easy to do. So if you don't like any of them, you can actually replace them once each per day as well. Now, I understand that if you miss a bunch of days as well, there's some sort of accrual system of the gold, so even if you like leave the game and come back, it's more rewarding when you do come back, so that's quite a nice system as well. Now, in addition to that, you can actually buy real packs for money. There's this starter bundle at the moment, 10 packs for $10, and otherwise it's like 40 Spirit Orbs for $50. Now, in addition to the gold earned by daily quests, the first win of the day gives you 25 gold, I believe it is, and then every 2 wins gives you an extra bonus 10 gold. So you get 5 gold per win and an extra 10 gold bonus per every 2 wins. Now that can happen 7 times a day. So if you combine all of these things together, the general rewards, the daily quests, and also the win bonuses with the first win of the day bonus, it's quite easy to get 200 gold a day, which is more than enough for a gauntlet run, or it's enough for 2 packs of cards. So this is already quite generous. But how about actually opening the packs? Now I did 80 orbs earlier yesterday, and those orbs were provided to me by Counterplay as to help review the game essentially and showcase the game. And this was good because I was able to actually kind of check the rates of like how many legendaries and things like that you get. So let's open a pack here. Nice opening animation and everything to build the hype. And we did okay here. We got 2 rares and an epic. This follows the same sort of system that you'd expect. Commons, rares, epics, and legendaries. So this isn't too bad here. This is an example of a decent pack. Now I've opened packs where I've gotten 3 epics in one pack, and I've opened packs that had 2 legendaries in them, and I understand that I've seen someone got 3 legendaries from a pack as well. So they seem, the potential of each pack is really high. You're not kind of locked into this guaranteed like 3 commons, 1 rare, and 1 higher or something like that, right? It's fairly random. You can get really good packs, but at the very worst, you'll get 4 commons and 1 rare at the very worst. And I've had a few packs like that. Now, out of the 80 packs I opened, I actually opened something like 27 legendaries from 80 packs, and 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40 epics from those 80 packs as well. So that was, I think, pretty good. I feel like from the 80 orbs that I opened, that's a pretty good amount of legendaries and things like that. And from that, I also was able to go to the crafting system. So if we go into the collection now, this game has a crafting system which allows you to disenchant any cards you don't want. I was able to disenchant all of any duplicates that I got. So you can have a maximum of 3 cards. You can play a maximum of 3 of each card. So any extras that I had, I dusted, and there's an auto feature for that to dust every extra creature. And this gives you this spirit up here. And from that, I was able to get enough spirit to craft got another legendary, essentially. So I was able to get another legendary from that, or several epics. So more than enough to build up a couple of really nice decks, and that's what I've been playing around with. I've built up a nice Abyssian deck using the Death Watch feature, which is one of my favorites because it essentially causes some effect whenever a creature dies, any creature. So for example, this one here summons a Wraithling whenever on a random space, so it's a 1/1 creature, whenever another creature dies, on your side or their side. So you trade creatures with your opponents, and each time that happens, you summon 2 extra creatures that you can then trade and summon them more and more again, and it kind of snowballs in a really nice fashion. So quite epic. Now, if you're a Hearthstone player, you've probably noticed that the monetization model of this game is almost exactly like Hearthstone, and that's the case. Like, this game is, in a lot of ways, very similar to Hearthstone, with some of the key differences being the actual tactical board game-based gameplay. Now, that being said, having played quite a bit of Hearthstone myself and kind of struggled with the gold grind at time, and it takes, you know, it takes like 2 days, I feel, of casual to play to earn a pack to open, essentially. I feel like you can get 1 to 2 packs in this game per day very easily, and the packs themselves are quite generous. So it feels exactly like Hearthstone's monetization model, albeit like 25 to 50% more generous. So it seems to have a really fair monetization model that doesn't really feel too grindy, and you can build up some pretty nice decks. I've been told especially Pauper decks work pretty well as well, and you can craft one of those pretty much after doing some of the practice matches and some of those little challenges I showed off, and build a pretty competitive Pauper deck of common cards, maybe a rare here or there, and do pretty well. I've seen people get up into Diamond ranking with these like cheap common Pauper decks as well. There are some pretty damn strong legendaries in the game for sure, so there is an incentive to work for those, but it seems like there is at least a reasonable power distribution for anything below S ranking. You're essentially your legendary ranking. Some extra features I'd like to point out here is the watch system. You can watch replays of your own games, and you can actually just find replays of some of the top games from each different division. So if you're currently struggling to get out of silver, then you can look at some gold replays and see what the gold players do differently to you. So I can watch this, you know, Neverhaven versus Nebreticus game just here, and I can see how that plays out and learn some tips from it, get some insight into some deck construction and stuff like that. There's a lot of in-game learning tools here, so you can even go up to Diamond and watch games from that as well. For you guys who are, you know, into the lore of these sorts of games, there are a whole bunch of lore entries, and these are actually audio book format as well, so you can essentially chuck this game on in the background, open up one of these, and it will start reading it out for you as well.
The Great Tree of Isles.
So guys, I have to give this game a pretty glowing review. Over the past week, I've really fallen in love with it. I'm finding I'm playing it more and more, and I've been streaming it a few times, and I'm feeling the desire to make guides for it even, so you can expect some more content on this game for me. I mean, if you're a Hearthstone fan and want a game that's a bit more generous in its monetization model, with an extra layer of tactical depth in terms of this like actual positioning and movement of creatures, then I highly recommend giving this a go. And if you're just a TCG fan or a fan of gorgeous art and pixel art, then definitely give it a look. If I had to give it any sort of criticism, it would be that although it's gorgeous, it's a little hard to read as a new player. That becomes less of an issue after you've been playing for a little while, I've found. But it's a bit hard to see what's going on with the board state. It can be a little confusing. And one thing in particular is that there's not any options for adjusting the UI or zooming in on the board a little bit more. Now, I talked to some of the developers, and they've said that UI adjustment options and things like that are incoming. So that's something they're looking to patch in the near future. And the game will be releasing on Steam in less than a month, so I think they're looking to get it in before that as well. So that'll be some really nice improvements. If we can get some nice UI adjustment, move the UIs further out to the corner, zoom in on the board a bit more so we can get a bit of a clearer read on the board state, then I think it would be perfect. But I'm really, really liking this game. Like, I have very few faults to bring up with it. So far, it's just been a really, really enjoyable experience. Just gorgeous, gorgeous visuals and nice, satisfying tactical, gameplay. Like, it's more casual than something like Magic the Gathering. It's something which is what I want from a digital card game. I want to jump in and kind of just have a bit of a bash with some creatures. And Hearthstone was really good for that. But it was kind of lacking something in terms of deck construction. It didn't really inspire me to construct decks. And this tactical positioning on like this board has really just offered me something that I've been really, really enjoying. So maybe you guys will enjoy it as much as I have, and I highly recommend giving it a go. So guys, that is it for now. Keep an eye out for more Duelist content coming up on the channel. Let me know what you think. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.